If you keep attracting people who are self-aware, but they're not consistent, then this video is for you. I'm going to talk about the pattern that's actually happening underneath this. So, my name is Crystal Hoban. I am an identity coach, and I help people stop abandoning themselves in life and love. Now, I really want to talk about this pattern because I also used to do this. What I realized is I was attracted to vulnerability. I was attracted to people being honest. And probably because I didn't really have a lot of that in my upbringing in life, right? So I found it like special and it felt good that somebody else was like aware of themselves and was doing that work, right? And if you're somebody who, is very aware of yourself, you do the work, you do the deeper work, then you're probably attracted to that. You're probably attracted to people who are self aware and who pay attention to what they're doing and why and those kinds of things, right? And what I've had to realize and what I've had to recognize is that self awareness does not equal emotional responsibility. So, what I mean by that is it can look like that person is being like emotionally deep, right? They're aware of their patterns, they're probably aware of why they're doing it. But there's a piece that's usually missing there. And this is where the inconsistency starts to happen, where there's still the action, they're still doing the same thing. They understand why, they recognize what they're doing, right? But they're still choosing that pattern. They're still choosing to do that thing. They can be honest about it, they can be upfront about it, right? They can talk about it, but they're not actually managing it or changing it. And so I had a recent experience of this when I joined a new club. And that's kind of why this is at the top of my mind today. I went and I joined a club, and afterwards they went out for a drink. So I went out for a drink with everybody, whatever. And I stayed and I was chatting with people. And one of the people that I was chatting with, he talked about how he will start drinking, but he like can't stop. Like he'll have a drink and then he like can't stop having drinks at a certain point in time. And I mean, this is somebody I'm meeting for the first time, right? So I'm like, okay, why? Right? And he goes into this idea like maybe he hates himself, maybe he's insecure, right? All these different things. And I just kind of dropped it at that point. And what's really interesting to me is that in the past, because I have been attracted to people who are self aware and honest and vulnerable, right? That has always been something that has drawn me to people. I've realized that in the past, I would have like tried to understand that more and tried to engage in that more, but I didn't. It's not mine to fix, right? It's not mine to do anything with. And that's their issue or problem, right? I thought it was interesting that he shared that with me, and I thought that that was vulnerable, right? And I did appreciate that. And though that's as far as I took it. But I think that if you're somebody who is deeply aware of things and deeply cares about people, and if you're even empathic, right? There's a part of you that wants to help other people. There's a part of you that wants to like fix other people. I don't know that that's exactly conscious, right? I wouldn't say that I was consciously aware that I was doing that in relationships for most of my life, but there is a part of me that did that automatically and unconsciously without realizing. Now I recognize my pattern and I see what I'm doing. So I don't have to continue following that pattern, right? As soon as I recognize it, I can choose to do something different. But what was interesting is that in the past, I would have tried to like go further down that rabbit hole. And this time I just changed the subject and shifted gears, right? And so I think that if you're somebody who deeply cares about people and wants to help people, it's a fine line and it's hard sometimes to recognize that you're even doing that, right? Like, did he share that with me so that I would go down that path with him, right? Did he open that door in that way? Or is that just what I'm used to, right? Like, it's not mine to figure out or resolve at this point in time, but in the past I would have. In the past I would have tried to figure that out. would have tried to understand that, right? I would have felt like I could fix it or I could make it better. I would have felt like they were asking me for help, but not actually asking me for help, right? By mentioning it, that was them asking me for help. But now that I have the awareness and understanding about what I'm doing, right? Like I don't do that anymore. I've shifted identities in that space. But what I find interesting is even when you shift identities, there's still these old ways of functioning and being that will sometimes pull you in. And if you don't have the awareness of what you're doing and why, right? Then sometimes you fall into the trap without realizing. And in the past, I would have, you know, but this time around, I didn't. And it's taken a lot of awareness for me to recognize that, and a lot of like having to be honest with myself that I've been attracted to emotionally unavailable people. And there's an attachment thing happening for me within that space. So when someone's vulnerable with me, like I automatically assume that means depth. I automatically assume, right, that that means that they like are going deeper with me for a reason or sharing with me for a reason, right? That's a deeper connection. Instead of seeing things for what they are, like I did last night, right? In the past, I would have seen it as that and that was it, and not realize that, okay, he shared something with me. Cool, we're humans, right? And that doesn't mean anything or say anything about the dynamic or relationship, which I would have done in the past. I would have made meaning of that in that way in the past. But what it actually is showing me, right, is that they're aware of their patterns, but they're still continuing to choose them, right? They're not choosing to manage them or do them differently. And I think that a lot of the times we can be understanding and we can understand where somebody's coming from. And especially if you're like a deeply empathetic and caring person and you identify as like a healer or a light worker, right? Or even just somebody who is empathetic and understanding, like you'll kind of like fall into that trap. And that's exactly what I'm going to call it, is a trap. Because there's a part of you that starts to see the potential of what this person could be. There's a part of you that like feels like, oh my gosh, they understand themselves so well, maybe we're not so different. There's a part of you that's like, oh my gosh, they're so self-aware, they must be so emotionally intelligent, right? And I just want to acknowledge that yes, that is true to a certain degree, and there is a piece of that that is true, right? But the fact of the matter is that they still aren't able to make a different decision or choice. They're still not managing it, right? They can tell you why they're doing it, that they're doing it, but they haven't been able to shift that behavior or change that behavior. And a lot of the times, if you're a fixer, you're someone that is attracted to helping people, right? You want to help them do that. But that's something that they have to do on their own. And they have to want to do that on their own, to be honest with you. It's probably been one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in my entire life, is that that's not something that I actually can help them with. That's something that they have to figure out on their own and do on their own and want to do on their own, right? But one thing that I've learned as being a therapist, because I was a therapist in the past and I do coaching now, but one thing that I learned is that, emotional unavailable people are attracted to fixers and fixers are attracted to emotionally unavailable people. Like it's kind of like this automatic unconscious thing. And the reason for it is because each of them play a role, right? Where each of them need to feel needed in different ways. So the fixer or the person that like takes care of things or makes things better or wants to make things better, right? Like they are able to help this person and feel needed by they need help and I'm going to help you, right? And this person feels needed because they feel like, well, if you're helping me, then that means that I'm kind of the center of your world, right? I'm the center of your experience. So you need me. It's kind of a weird, um, I guess, back and forth way, but it's very automatic. It's just like an automatic thing. And the other thing that comes to mind as I'm saying this too is like even deeper than this, right? The attachment styles. So you've probably heard about secure attachment, right? That's what everybody wants, is secure attachment. And then there's avoidant attachment, and then there's anxious attachment, and then there's disorganized attachment. And disorganized attachment is a mixture between anxious and avoidant attachment. And anxious attachment is someone who usually is like a chaser in relationships. So they'll try to prove themselves in relationships. They're the overgiver, they're the chaser, they want to make things better, they want to be the fixer. That's kind of the anxious attachment. The avoidant attachment, which is the emotionally unavailable people, right? They're the ones who, kind of are the runner. They run away from the situations because getting too vulnerable is scary, but they'll show just enough to attract in. And I think what's really important to recognize is this not always conscious, to be honest with you. And the only way for you to get to the point of being conscious of these things is for you to start recognizing yourself and why you're attracted to these things and where that actually comes from for you. And that takes kind of like looking at yourself and looking at your own patterns and looking at like what love looked like in your home growing up, because that's kind of how you then function. So I think it's just really important to recognize that there is kind of this automatic attachment thing that happens. So the difference between like healthy love and attachment, like healthy attraction and unhealthy attraction, right? Unhealthy attraction is like you feel this like pull towards somebody, and it's like very intense. That's usually information that there's attachment happening. Where if you are in a healthy attraction, you're interested about somebody, you're curious about somebody, but you don't feel this insane pull to the point where they're like invading your feelings or making you think about them 100% of the time, right? That's attachment. There's a difference between them. And I think when it comes down to it, the chasers or the fixers who are like automatically attracted to these unavailable partners, right? They mistake awareness for growth. Well, they're so grown, they're so aware, right? And they think that vulnerability means readiness. And I think that the reason I'm making this video today is because I want to help you understand, and I think I've come to understand, that this isn't about vulnerability meaning readiness. Vulnerability is a part of it, right? But it really comes down to how is that person managing themselves, because that's the true indicator of growth and readiness. We can be aware of our patterns and know what we're doing until we're blue in the face, but until we can make a different decision and choose something different, right? We're not managing ourselves well. And any time that you're dating or you're in a relationship, it's an investment of your time. It's an investment of yourself, right? And so if you're somebody who manages yourself really well and you make the changes that you need to make, then you're going to also want that. And so that's something that you need to kind of be aware of and make sure that you're looking out for and watching consistency over time. Does this person manage their own stuff well? Right? They may know that they're doing these things, but what are they doing to make a different decision or make a different choice? Are they doing anything? Because that's what I kind of mean by managing, right? I used to think that those things meant emotional depth, but I realized I was missing that management piece. And until I realized that, that wasn't something I was looking for or something that was really in my awareness. So I hope that was helpful for at least some people out there. And I want you to know you're not alone. I've definitely done these things before, which is why I'm really good at seeing them and pointing them out and understanding them in the way that I am. And so this is exactly what I do in my coaching. I do have a masterclass coming up for my program, Fully Express and Unavailable for Less, and I teach exactly this. So if you'd like more information, you can find more information in the link in my bio, and you can register to join my masterclass. And just know you're not alone. And we're constantly learning, we're constantly processing, and we're going to get through this. Love you.